to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
Good morning. Good morning. It is a good morning if things worked out in your favor last night.
It's a good morning for Odell Beckham Jr. owners.
It sure is. It sure is.
Is it a good morning for Lamar Miller owners, or is it
yes.
not?
No, it is.
Okay.
It is, for sure.
It's
two
gotta
touchdowns.
be.
You kidding me?
Well, no, I know he had a great game, but it's so frustrating.
Welcome to the show. This is the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. I am Andy Holloway, joined by Mike, the Fantasy Hitman Wright,
What's going on?
and Jason Moore.
So incredibly happy to be here.
Well, you know, I appreciate that because it's late in the season, but if you're here, it's a good day.
It is a good day.
And if you're in the playoffs, it's a good day. Today is Tuesday, December 15th. We've got a good show for you. We have some news and notes. We'll catch you up on everything. We got Week 15 coming up. Got a waiver wire show today.
Woo! Yeah!
Wow, that was some excitement.
I am so stoked for the waiver wire. This is,
We also have streamers.
yeah.
Full stream ahead. All our streaming quarterback picks for this week. We encourage you to subscribe if you're listening on iTunes. Subscribe to the podcast, and then it will download new episodes onto your phone over and over again. We'll just be there.
We'll sneak right into your pocket.
Sneaking into your pocket. That's true. It's true. You would have it's nice though. And there's like settings on your podcast app where it will just auto download the next newest ones so you don't have to do it every day. It's
So
nice.
we can repeatedly sneak into your
Yeah.
pocket.
Yeah. Hashtag sneak into the pocket. All right, that's too long.
Moving on.
All right, if you want to follow us on Twitter, you can. It's at the FF Ballers. If you want to follow me, it's at Andy Holloway. Jason at JasonFFL, and Mike is at FF Hitman.
Yep.
Mike and I had a very public battle
Yeah.
this past week because we faced each other in the first round of the playoffs.
My team became the FF Quit Man.
Oh,
See what you did there.
you know, if you're gonna lose in style, and no touchdowns from any player, including your quarterback on your team, is impressive. I
Thank
told
you.
you that
Thank you. I appreciate that.
while I was dancing.
I
With-
felt
with
accomplished.
joy.
I felt I really did something to put up a tremendous score, but still with no touchdowns. So
Yeah, that was the best score for a no-touchdown team I've seen in a long time. Very well done. All right, quick question for the day. And this is, if you don't want to pay attention to this question, that's fine. You can turn it into something else, but we're talking about the game last night. Devontae Parker played 67 of 70 snaps last night, 2 catches. So, also, Lamar Miller, as you said, 2 touchdowns on 7 carries in the first half, ends with 12 carries.
Ridiculous.
Those 2 players, by the way, Miami lost, in case you didn't realize what happened last night. Can you trust these guys moving forward? And why doesn't Miami give the ball to their best players?
well, to go along with that, you need to throw in the stat of how many targets did Jarvis Landry get last night, and
That would be 17 to 18, depending on your source.
on the record. So let's go with 18. 18 freaking targets
That's
for
a lot
one
of
guy.
targets. Yeah.
Which Jarvis Landry's great. That's not the argument here. The argument here is Lamar Miller was carrying your team with runs of just epic beast mode proportions. That 38-yard touchdown was redonkulous of changing lateral directions at least 3 times.
There was nowhere to go on that play. They ran to the right, and he ran into a group of guys, and then he teleported 4 feet to the left, and then broke 2 tackles and ran 38 yards to a touchdown.
The abbreviation for Miami is MIA.
Right.
Apparently, they're just applying that to Lamar Miller every game. He is so frustrating and yet so great.
Yeah, he still had a great fantasy game and has had many. So
But you know there are people that, a big blow-up game. I had somebody ask me yesterday, would you rather – I need a bunch of points, they said. They had ODB. Do you play Lamar Miller? Do you play Devontae Parker? Thank goodness I told him Miller, as much as we liked Parker this week, because they just didn't target him. One downfield throw to him on the sideline, and like you said, 18 to Landry. You had Jennings, Stills, Deion Sims, Damian Williams, Jay Ajayi came in the game.
What is going on?
And they lost. So
And
it is what it is.
I was going back and forth with my buddy because he was also frustrated why aren't they giving Lamar Miller the ball? And I made the joke of well, he's killing their draft pick. And he wrote back. He's like, I think you're right. I'm like, I was joking. He said, yeah, I know, but what other explanation?
So, can
do
you
have?
start now? We were optimistic about Devontae Parker. Devontae Parker had a terrible game. Can you play him next week against San Diego because of the snap count?
No, you can't. You cannot trust in round 2 of the playoffs a guy that had 2 decent games, in his career back to back, but you just can't trust that. I can't imagine that that's who I would want in there.
Well,
you can't trust Lamar
considering
Miller.
I have Jonathan Stewart, who's in question,
in a walking boot,
and Thomas Rawls, who's now out, and I'm facing you, you're telling me don't play Devontae Parker.
No, I'm telling you do play Devontae Parker. I think you need him.
Yeah,
He's got high
sure.
potential, and Foot Clan, close your ears. I think he's great, Andy.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah, I really do.
But like Russell Wilson, sit of the week great, or
yes, epic proportions.
Hey, before we move on to our news section, we like to take some time every week and go ahead and read a review, an iTunes review from the listeners. We really appreciate those. That's one of the best ways that you can support the show. Jason is warming up his pipes so he can read this properly, and so we're going to do that right now.
Reviewosaurus Rex.
This one comes in from Hot Cup of Tea from the Great White North in Canada. He says,
Bonjour.
playoff bound, and it feels so good. Sing it. What can I say? The fantasy footballers changed my life.
What?
From finishing out of the playoffs the last 4 years to going into the playoffs with an 11-3 record and the number 1 spot feels wonderful. The morning drive into work is no longer so mundane. I can get the scoop before all my friends and get the sleepers off of waivers to give me the leg up on the competition. By far the best football podcast I've come across, and I will continue to listen when the season is done. Well, that does sound like a hot cup of tea. Thank you, Hot Cup of Tea, and thank you to all of our Foot Clan listeners who support the show, who review us. We really do appreciate it. It helps us out, and we're here for you.
News and notes from around the league.
Hot cup of tea.
It's in my head now, too. Sounds like a hot cup of tea. All right, let's get into it. Let's talk some news and notes, some updates on injuries and things like that. Texans coach Bill O'Brien said Brian Hoyer is most likely out, so we'll see TJ Yates this week against Indianapolis. Monster game. Is this the Yates-Whitehurst battle for the division?
Wow.
Because it could be, right?
Yes, and it could be Yates for a little bit. Brian Hoyer's worried about all of his brain trauma over there.
So no fingernails are left for T.Y. Hilton owners or DeAndre Hopkins owners?
That is brutal. And you still got to play Hopkins. You don't.
Of
have,
course.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
and
have to.
I didn't make him this, but Yates is not the worst streaming option. I'm just saying.
Against
A.J. McCarron or T.J. Yates?
they're playing the.
Who's
hold
A.J.
on.
McCarron play this week?
Oh, I thought you were going to say, who is A.J. McCarron?
yeah. Who is? I've never heard of this guy.
Excuse me. I don't have the schedule. I meant to print that out. I forget who Cincinnati plays right at the moment.
That is just ridiculous that you would think that's where I'm going.
No,
I was in the
as
room
a
with you
joke,
watching
not because
tape
you didn't
on
know.
A.J. McCarron all yesterday.
So the Texans play the Colts, and I would agree with Jason that makes Yates. Let's say you're desperate.
49ers, by the way.
These things happen.
Against 49ers, I actually
It's in San
like it.
Francisco.
I don't care. I like A.J.
Okay.
McCarron.
Yeah,
The 49ers are tough at home.
That's
The 49ers are tough at home. Look up their numbers. I know the public perception is that they stink and they're terrible. At home, they are not bad.
now public perception. Is that the same thing as their record?
Right, record, yeah, that's fine. But you can look up how many points they're giving up.
I will take that matchup. I
The-
understand. I understand some of the numbers back up what you're saying. I'm not doubting that. I'm just saying I'll take the matchup against a team that we've seen this with Detroit, bad record, lost the Hail Mary game, kind of seemed like they rolled over last week. Dallas at the end of the game giving up tons of yards on the ground. You don't know when a team's going to give up on their season or not match the intensity level of a playoff team. So, but yeah, it is what it is. So, what's the running back situation in Seattle? Because Dujuan Harris, they signed Bryce Brown. Dujuan Harris ran last week, and then you have Fred Jackson, who we know will not be the every down starter.
So Coach Pete Carroll, a.k.a. Coach Pete peach cobbler
Yes.
up there. We know that Dujuan Harris is there. They've just signed Bryce Brown, and allegedly there will be a competition between Bryce Brown and Dujuan Harris to see who's the starting running back.
Andy, who do you think wins that competition? You've been a Thomas Rawls owner. This is something that matters to you. I would imagine that you have been looking at this.
I have meditated on this a little bit.
Yeah, so who do you think is going to win that battle there?
I think Bryce Brown's a knucklehead. And I think Bryce Brown will represent too much risk for Seattle's offense that is succeeding with their passing game. And so I think they will take lower yard per carry numbers and reliability of Dujuan Harris if that's how they feel he's representing himself. Now, we know Dujuan Harris might be a knucklehead too because he's the one who was caught out at the curfew with Lacey. So that being said, I think Dujuan Harris will probably maintain it, knowledge of the playbook and things like that. But Bryce Brown's the better running back. Let me just get that out there. He's the better actual running back.
Yeah, he's the more explosive guy, but one of the guys is already on or was on the team last week.
Yes.
And that was Dujuan Harris. So
Yes.
that's the guy I would put the money on. However,
doesn't mean you can't sign both of them.
Right. Weird things happen. We just saw a situation in New Orleans where it was Tim Hightower or C.J. Spiller, and Spiller had been the guy who'd been playing most of the year, had that electric overtime catch to win the game, and then it was Tim Hightower. So strange things do happen. But for now, I would. I
would say the difference is
Harris.
that Hightower wasn't already cut by them 2 times this year. You know,
That's fair.
The big reason this matters in Seattle is because the matchup is so incredibly good this week. It's not just a matter of, these guys could split carries and both have value this week because of the matchup. So pay attention to that. We will talk about it a lot this week. They'll both be pickups on our waiver wire show or our waiver wire segment today. Deshaun Jackson day-to-day with a patella contusion.
Ooh.
ESPN, the report from Adam Schefter is questions about Andrew Luck returning for 2015. I think he is going to play this year. Although, did you see Chuck Pagano's quotes about coming back or not coming back or being fired?
No, I'm very interested in this
Yeah,
because I have my opinions.
we were joking about this.
Hold on. What did he actually say?
He said, well, they can't eat you. They can fire you, but they can't eat you. Worst case scenario is I'm playing with my grandkids in this offseason.
So he has accepted the
I feel like there's a
inevitability.
level of acceptance when you're now relating it to being eaten alive. And so you can't – at least I'm not going to be eaten alive.
Yeah, Mike and I were joking yesterday that Pagano was like, Luck, he can't come back, guys. and Andrew Luck's going, no, I'm pretty much ready to come back. He's like, no, you need to rest, please, for my job. And then now Luck comes out and says, no, look, I promise
I'm probably
I will
practicing
play.
on Wednesday.
I'm probably practicing on Wednesday. And then Pagano goes, well, they can't eat me, so that's all right. You can come back.
I mean,
They can't eat me?
yeah.
I mean, that's the opposite. Usually you tell people, hey, eat me.
So which is the better quote of the week? Chuck Pagano saying, you can't eat me,
That's going to be tough to beat.
or Jerry Jones saying that he's not sitting Des Bryant down, but instead they're going to go balls out with Des Bryant.
You gotta
You
go
gotta
eat
eat.
me.
The eat.
Yeah,
Okay.
That is amazing.
that's epic proportion level quote.
All right. TJ Yeldon's status, sprained knee.
there was
Gus
breaking,
Bradley.
There was breaking news.
So do you have some updates there?
You want to hit the button?
Breaking news.
The Jacksonville Jaguars are signing Jonas Gray off the Dolphins practice squad, which, yes, that is a panic alarm for TJ Yeldon's availability this weekend. If they're already making a preparation as a fantasy owner of TJ Yeldon, I recommend you do the same.
Denard Robinson then.
Denard Robinson.
Thank you for that. Well mispronounced introduction of him.
Love Denard.
NFL Network reports that x-rays were negative on Spencer Ware's ribs. He got knocked out with a rib injury. He's bruised, swollen, and in pain. But at least they haven't eaten him.
That's true. That's always the watermark.
New standard.
Account for cannibals.
I feel really good now. If that's my standard of life, like I'm not being eaten, that's good.
I love
All right.
that. I love that I just said that's the watermark instead of that's the benchmark.
And we just passed over it
Yeah.
because we're so used to it.
Yeah, I attack the human language.
This might be a good. You do attack the human language. English language is also another way to put it,
Yeah, that was part of the joke.
as opposed to the human language.
That was the joke. I was in on that one.
Okay, so public service announcement from our listeners to you. Players play well. They do not play good.
Well, according to me, I disagree.
Sources say.
Sources say
All
Lamar
right.
Miller played good.
So,
All right, so moving along.
all right. What do we expect from the Luck-Hasselbeck situation this week? Do you expect them both to be out? Or do you expect Hasselbeck to play? Or do you want to just run to the hills?
I mean, the news was they're expecting Hasselbeck. I don't think Andrew Luck will be back this week. So either way, it's not a situation that you're looking into for quarterback. I guess for wide receiver, we saw that Hilton had some success. Moncrief was not great, but he could get it done. So they're not guys that I'm just sitting down because of Hasselbeck. I would still play Hilton, but it would be great if Andrew Luck was back.
Yeah,
All right.
if Andrew Luck comes back, it helps the wide receivers. Otherwise, I'm not sure how much you can actually trust Hilton or Moncrief because they seem to be going back and forth. There's
fair.
not enough production from Hasselbeck to make both of them viable. But we just keep going with whoever did it last week. But that seems to be wrong because every other week it's Moncrief, every other week it's Hilton. So if Hasselbeck's in there, I would hope that I've got other guys I can start at wide receiver.
2 more quick injury reports. Todd Gurley is reportedly fine. Will play Thursday night against the Bucs, according to Jeff Fisher. Also, LeGarrette Blount was spotted on crutches with the hip injury, so there's a chance that he is out this week. That could be an uptick for James White. That can be an uptick for Brandon Bolden, or that could be an uptick for a random player we don't know about yet that will somehow play full-time running back for the Patriots.
And have 300 yards on the ground.
And have 300 yards. So before we get into the crux of the waiver segment on today's show, I want to thank Harry's and Harry's.com for sponsoring today's podcast and help making the show possible. Why in the world would you pay $32 for an 8-pack of blades? It's half the price at Harry's. We've talked about Harry's so much. The best shave that you can get. You get a better shave for less money, and it respects your face. It respects your skin. And ladies, it respects your legs. And I'm talking to you, Mike.
Thank you.
And your wallet. No more poor quality blades at Harry's.com. No plexiglass cabinets to break it out of either when you go down to the local store. So the starter set is an amazing deal for $15. You get a razor, moisturizing shave cream, 3 razor blades, and with the promo code Footballers, you can get $5 off of that amazing deal. So go to Harry's. We use it. I've used it to shave. Jason's used it to shave every day. We love it. So check it out, harrys.com, and enter the coupon code Footballers at checkout for $5 off and start shaving better today.
Put me in, coach.
Plexiglass.
Almost.
Plexiglass.
Almost.
Plexi. All right. Waiver time. Very interesting time of year for waivers. We talked about this last week. There is one part offense, one part defense going on in the waiver wire now, and it stinks when people like Jason, who I'm playing, have fab dollars and I don't.
I saved it. If you listen to our tips show,
Oh,
I think
shut
that
it.
was one of our tips originally, was try to save a couple bucks for the playoffs.
Well, how do you save money when you lose Arian Foster, Deion Lewis, Thomas Rawls, and Jonathan Stewart? Maybe sometimes you just have to spend it.
Oh, I agree with both of these things as hot tips. I am all about going all in when there's a player like D'Angelo Williams. I will gladly empty my bankroll. However, if there's a situation where you can end up with some cash at the end of the year, it's very beneficial.
Yeah, I've definitely regretted not having some in there because it would just make a big difference. All right, wide receivers. Let's talk about them first. I will tell you who my favorite wide receiver pickup is, but I want to know. Just tell me, who's yours?
Tyler Lockett.
That's mine too.
Then that's mine too.
Sure. Did he play good this week?
He played really good.
And behind him, I would actually Michael Floyd is
I
he's
don't
pretty
consider-
widely owned. Though,
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I wouldn't consider him really in most leagues. So
The guy after that if I was going to pick somebody else, it would be Ted Ginn Jr. That to me he's got a matchup against New York Giants this week where we're talking about playoffs. You have to have a big production. And so Ted Ginn can go out there and get you 4 fantasy points, and that's fine. But Ted Ginn can go out there and get you 30 fantasy points by catching only 3 long bomb touchdowns. And if you're looking for a guy, you had an injury and you're in a flex position that's bad, he is the type that I think can get it done for you.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think another guy I wanted to just mention his name for upside is Dorial Green-Beckham again. He was targeted a little more heavily, 3 for 53. It's a limited offense, but depending on your situation, like right now, I'm looking at Dorial Green-Beckham and Devontae Parker, and I grab a coin and I flip it.
And
that's how I feel right now about those two guys. Big play opportunities, limited catches.
And not to gloss over Lockett, we got to get back to him.
We will. He's 21% owned, by the way, which is great.
He's
great.
available in 80% of leagues. He was 6 catches for 104 yards, 2 touchdowns, and Russell Wilson is just magma nuclear levels of hot right now. And we know that Doug Baldwin is the one who's really getting it done, but teams can't let Doug Baldwin beat them week after week after week. So
yes, they can.
I guess, yeah, that's fair.
Cleveland sure can.
That's very fair. But I like how Tyler Lockett is getting involved. The run game is going to take a hit. I know they're Seattle and they're known for this monster run game, but when you're rolling out Dujuan Harris and Bryce Brown, you're not just going to be running out the clock and like Marshawn Lynch or Thomas Rawls can do it. So they're going to have to air it out.
And Russell's part of that running game too.
Absolutely.
So, to your point, I want to add to it. Tyler Lockett, I love him. I love him almost on the same plane as Doug Baldwin. I also like Jermaine Kearse. Kearse cannot be ignored. He had 2 touchdowns recently too. He fits in that category. Those 3 guys, no Jimmy Graham, no running game, 5 touchdowns a week for Russell Wilson lately. Great matchups on the table. I'm telling you right now, Jermaine Kearse is not a last week, right? He didn't get any of the touchdowns that were 3 to Baldwin, 2 to Lockett. Jermaine Kearse had 7 catches.
7 for 74, and the last game he played did he miss the game before last?
I don't
know.
know.
So did he have a gooser?
Yeah, he had
Wow,
a gooser,
I
which
missed
that's
that.
the problem. Right before that, he had 2 touchdowns in a game.
You did have the Jimmy Graham changeover there too.
True.
So I just don't want his name because if you're in a deeper league and Lockett and Baldwin are gone and you need a spot start, I would probably play Kearse over Devontae Parker. I'd rather have my stock invested into Russell Wilson than into Ryan Tannehill finding a guy deep.
And this week is perfect for that. At home against Cleveland, it was similar to last week where I was saying Arizona was playing Minnesota, and I said, I want to start all my Cardinals if I can.
Yeah, you made that call.
Now, unluckily, Fitzgerald was the one who didn't get anything done, but everybody else got in on the action. I see a situation where that could easily happen up in Seattle. And the last point I'll make real quick for Michael Floyd, he's owned in 73% of leagues, so he's available in some. And 4 of his last 5 games, over 100 yards. So just something to think about for Michael Floyd.
Absolutely. All right, let's go ahead and talk about a big position of need right now at running back, one of the most difficult positions to get late in the season, but now you have these injuries. I'm thinking Stewart. We didn't mention him on the news because the definitive report on him is really going to be later today when practice takes place and when we get reports on his status. Right now it's a sprained foot.
On Jonathan Stewart,
sorry. And this team has clinched the bye week. This team doesn't need to risk Jonathan Stewart this week if it's anything more than a very small injury that he can recover from, and that means practice all week on. So I am very doubtful about him. So you might need somebody to fill in. So we'll talk about his direct backups. We'll also talk about other options. But
yeah,
Tim,
so Yeldon, possibly gone. J. Stu, possibly gone.
Rawls.
Thomas Rawls, definitely gone.
Possibly gone.
Spencer Ware,
gone.
people depending on Spencer Ware, we don't know.
Absolutely. So there are a lot, and these are players that are on playoff rosters. So we have a lot of people like you, Andy.
Melvin Gordon, visibly gone.
Yes, you have Rawls. You are a light and a beacon shining to our listeners because you started 1-4.
It doesn't feel that way.
Well,
that part of it.
You started 1-4, and you came back. And you made the playoffs. You went 8-4, and you have dealt with so many injuries this year. And so now this week, yet again, you've got Rawls out, you've got J. Stu possibly out, and you're in the second round of the playoffs. What do you do? So you are the person I want to hear from the most, who can help the Foot Clan the most. People that are in need of running backs. Who do they claim first? And this has nothing to do with the fact.
Everything to do with the fact that he wants me to reveal my waiver wire order.
What's more important to you, or
the
the
listeners?
Foot Clan?
The
there
listeners.
You go. Let's have it.
Look, as one of our Foot Clan listeners put it on Twitter, there are many repercussions for this week.
The fantasy
However, I
reaper.
wish that I was not a beacon of light or whatever you called it with Thomas Rawls and Jonathan Stewart and Deion Lewis and Foster and all that jazz. So, yes, the Foot Clan listeners are far more important than our matchup. I can defeat you regardless of the knowledge you have. Tim Hightower, he's at the top of the list, 28 carries. A lot of questions I've already received from listeners about Tim Hightower versus Lamar Miller. Tim Hightower versus guy who gets Jeremy Hill, okay? These other options. 28 carries.
That was the answer. Last week was pretty hands off. We advised Hightower because we thought he'd be the guy who's going to get the touches, but you couldn't really confidently play him because you didn't know. It could have been Spiller, but Andy's right. 28 carries.
You can stink and have a great fantasy game, and he did, and he did.
Yeah. And so Hightower is at the top of all the lists, 40% owned right now. There are a number of guys that are basically not owned that you know are going to be there, and we're going to give you some basic guidance as to whether you should sign them.
I would say second on the list, who is half owned, would be James White.
Really?
That's what I would say, yeah.
Oh, okay.
To me, James White has shown that he is really starting to fill in more of the Deion Lewis role. Last week we had that amazing catch that was overturned for 38 yards, so his stat line didn't
One carry last week, but it was a touchdown.
Right, and that's we've seen that a couple of times now on the season where he gets a few touches down near the goal line, and they use him in packages where who are you going to defend? Not James White. You're going to take on Gronk, and you're going to be looking at the main option.
And I will disagree with you. I don't think James White's a bad signing. He's not the next on my list.
Number one on my list is Denard Robinson.
Well, I was going to say that you're playing for this week. Denard Robinson faces Atlanta. He would be higher than James White to me. I would still rather have Hightower, I think, than I would Denard Robinson, but both guys are valuable. Robinson's not owned at all, so he's available. 14 for 75 and a touchdown last week. So Robinson takes the cake there. If you're in a PPR, White rises up a little bit more, but obviously he's not getting between the tackle carries, and he kind of needs that touchdown regardless. What about some other guys here? What about Brandon Bolden? You like James White. If Blunt is out, Bolden had 16 carries last week.
Yeah, Bolden is definitely an option worth picking up if Blunt is out. If Blunt is
in, and they play
then
Tennessee. So Tennessee, I don't know if they're going to be able to score enough points on New England to make that game anything but a running game second half.
Yeah, Brandon Bolden should be looked at. I still like him less than several other guys. I would rather have Dujuan Harris. That's a guy, especially with the matchup, like you said, going against Cleveland. To me, that would be one of the guys highest on my list as far as picking up. Here's another guy. Let's talk, if we may.
We may.
The Carolina backfield. Let's go with the assumption, because we don't know yet. We have to go with the assumption. Let's say Jay Stu is out. You're a playoff contender. You're not sure if you've got Jay Stu in or not, and you don't have another option behind him. You have to go and pick up and play the guy behind him. Let's just say, hypothetically, who is it?
I know who I would play. Mike, I would love to hear from you.
I tweeted out, I think last week or 2 weeks ago, there was a report on ESPN from a beat reporter in Carolina that despite being inactive, the guy who would take over for Jonathan Stewart is Cameron Artis-Payne.
So do you buy it? Because I do.
I buy it
do
completely. I'm almost surprised that the three of us are unanimous about this. But Cameron Artis-Payne in the offseason pre-draft, that was one of my favorite boys. Being
don't gloat about it yet. He hasn't gotten the carries yet.
I know, but I'm just saying there was belief from the offseason, and we've heard it all year long. It was weird that report came out 2 weeks ago, but we heard it 2 months ago, and we heard it preseason that Carolina believes that if Jay Stu were to go down, Cap would be able to take kind of that workhorse role. Now, I completely agree. We don't know that. We don't know if it's true or not, but that is the guy that I would be drafting or signing off of the waiver wire if I had Jonathan Stewart.
We have a perfect example of this situation taking place in Seattle right now. Fred Jackson, you're going to be a third down guy. Fozzie Whitaker, you're a third down guy. Mike Tolbert, you're a fullback most of the time. He could take a decent amount of important carries if the game got close. I think Tolbert is more reliable than Cameron Artis-Payne would be. That being said, I think Artis-Payne will be out there, and I think why not give the guy 20 carries if your season is locked up and you need to keep Jonathan Stewart healthy?
Yeah, I agree with that. I know they're playing for the perfect season, which would be nice, but they're playing for the Super Bowl, and a great way to get ready for that is if you want to rest Jonathan Stewart, you have his backup, get him some real experience right now, just in case.
Pop quiz: top 5 rushing running backs in the league.
As far as yardage,
top 5 yard guys.
Adrian Peterson,
Yeah.
Number 1.
Todd Gurley,
Number 4.
Jonathan Stewart,
Number 3.
Doug Martin.
Number 2.
Yeah, so we need one more. Who's been?
You guys did good. That was pretty good.
Let me look at a team list real quick.
I'll let you figure that out. Doug Martin is at 12-14.
Yeah, he's
He's
been
just
running.
behind
had a
AP.
great year.
Just behind AP. So just kind of surprising. Chris Ivory's the answer.
Oh,
okay. Thank
wow.
With 9-14. So kind of interesting. All right. I kind of say that because the yardage is obviously there for Jonathan Stewart and whatever person that comes into that role. Are you signing Fred Jackson in any leagues? He had 7 carries last week, only 1 catch.
No, I'm not going to pick him up. We've seen what he is going to be, and while he might get a little bit more involved, it's not going to be enough to matter. He could get a touchdown and be okay, but he's not the guy that's going to really carry the load there.
Another guy that people want to talk about, Isaiah Crowell had 20 carries, 145, 2 touchdowns, only 36% owned, but he plays Seattle this week.
And he played San Francisco when he put up those numbers, so no.
Well, the funniest part I thought of Crowell's game was, I don't know if you saw his quote after the game. He was saying, man, I imagine what it would be like if we had just committed to the run earlier, and well, we saw what you were doing running the ball earlier, and it was under 4 yards a carry and not getting the job done, so you had to throw the ball.
You know what was surprising to me is looking at how many carries he actually has been getting.
Yeah,
I just assume they have not been
double.
They've been going away from the run, but yeah, he's double-digit carries every week. So do something with that and then complain.
All right, any chance that Matt Jones delivers for owners this week?
Possible. If you're picking up a Washington running back, Matt Jones is who I'm going to go.
Fighting for the playoffs there. Yeah. All right. Any other names? Would you sign Bryce Brown in the context? I mean, I know we said we liked Harris.
Deep.
I would probably sign them both.
Deep.
Yeah, I mean, they're worth it. So let me just ask this for the listener listening. There are a lot of people that this is the list that matters to them today, is this running back list. So you've got I'd like to order essentially our top 4 guys.
Okay.
Each of you, your top 4. So I would definitely go Tim Hightower first if he's out there. I would go James White for me personally. Denard Robinson would be next. And then Dujuan Harris followed by, I'm going to go 5, Cameron Artis-Payne. That would be my list.
I would go T.J. Yeldon, Tim Hightower.
T.J. Yeldon.
Yeah, get him. If he's on your waivers, I know he's not playing, but grab him.
He's owned in like 98% of leagues.
But those 2% of leagues.
Number 1, Denard Robinson. Yeah, T.J. Yeldon could be a league winner if you pick him up right now.
Yeah, AP as well.
Denard Robinson, Tim Hightower. Then I would Harris, and number 4, probably from our list that we've given, Matt Jones, or even I like Bilal Powell in a PPR.
All right, I'll give you my 5. My number 1 guy will be Hightower. My number 2 guy is going to be Denard Robinson. I'm actually going to number 3, I'm going to make Brandon Bolden. Number 4, I'm going to make Artis-Payne. And then number 5, I'll make Dujuan Harris. So I'm going to leave James White off the list.
And just if you're wondering why for Yeldon, good grief, man. Denard Robinson, why is he number 1 for me?
You need a timeout.
I do. Matchups this week, the Jags are playing the Falcons. Next week, they play the Saints.
All right, tight end options. There are needs out there for tight end. Most certainly, Zach Miller had a very good week. He's only 19% owned. I'm buying into Zach Miller. He would be my kind of top pickup this week. Do you agree, or is there somebody else you like more?
No, I like Zach Miller a lot. He's been coming on strong for quite a while. The last month worth of games, he's been a good fantasy option more often than he is not. Martellus Bennett being gone, I like Zach Miller a lot.
And Bennett has been we like to crap on Bennett a lot, but he's a good player, and he's been shockingly bad. I mean, we talk about he's not a guy you want to rely on later on in the season because he just seems to fade out, but not like this. I mean, these are epic levels of just dropping off completely in a system that is friendly to the tight end.
Who are you talking about?
I was talking about Martellus Bennett.
Yeah.
You mean before he went on IR?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Because I'm leading into Zach Miller.
Yeah.
Where
No,
Zach Miller
I tuned out for a sec.
Miller has been productive, and he's in a system with John Fox and Jay Cutler that they like to throw to the tight end. So that's why it was strange to me why Bennett was that bad. So I do like Zach Miller moving forward.
Yeah, that makes sense. And you see a rapport between him and Cutler this year.
That being said, he wouldn't be my number one claim.
Is it Ertz?
Is
Ertz your number one claim?
No, it wouldn't be Ertz either.
Ooh, TIE Fighter?
It wouldn't be TIE Fighter.
Ed Dixon?
It wouldn't be Ed Dixon.
We're going to go through Richard Rodgers.
Richard Rodgers would be my number one guy.
We got it.
You got Aaron Rodgers throwing him the ball. He's looking at him. He's been consistent. He's a huge red zone option, and he's facing Oakland. That's
very fair.
If you need a guy this week, that would be the guy.
I'd go Zach Miller.
They play Minnesota this week, so I mean we got to remember this week. You're probably looking at a single matchup play. TIE Fighter was really good this week.
Yeah, Ty had 5 for 30 and a touchdown, first career touchdown. I like Austin Seferian-Jenkins. There's no reason not to. Vincent Jackson's out. Austin Seferian-Jenkins is getting increased snap counts. He's a big body. He's reliable. He knows what's going on with Winston. Thursday night, I would be very fine playing Austin Seferian-Jenkins. I'd play him over Richard Rodgers this week.
And Zach Miller?
You want a Richard Rodgers?
Are we starting the triangle?
Water bet? Oh, you want?
Yeah,
I would play him over Zach Miller this week.
So
what
I
is
would
the
take
bet?
Richard Rodgers. Mike would take Zach Miller, and you would take Austin Seferian-Jenkins in a 3-way
Bermuda Triangle water bet.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, that kind of ends.
Yeah, it does. I apologize.
All right. Well, we've got a tight end bet because we do. All right. Quarterbacks this week. Who do you like to pick up and stream? I know we're going to kind of get into that in our stream of the week section, but some guys on the list here: Alex Smith, Ryan Fitzpatrick, Blake Bortles, Ryan Tannehill, guys that are not, Fitzpatrick and Smith are still under 50% owned. Alex Smith and the Chiefs are on a 7-game winning streak. I like the matchup this week, so he's going to end up as one of my favorite streamers this week. Who else do you guys have on the list?
Bortles is mostly owned, but he's still available in almost a quarter of leagues.
That's just not possible.
And I don't care who you have. If you have Tom Brady, you should pick up Blake Bortles in case Brady gets. I mean, as a handcuff, he's playing New Orleans in Week 16. I'm just saying he should be rostered in all leagues.
All right. What about? Do we like Jay Cutler?
Cutler's okay. I had him decently high this last week.
Because the Vikings defense might still be beat up a little bit.
Yeah, I think Cutler's absolutely a decent play.
Kirk Cousins this week against San Diego.
Yeah, I think Kirk's going to be all
right. These
are
some of the plus matchups we're bringing
AJ
up.
McCarron is a guy that if you
I am
want,
fine with him in 2 quarterback leagues. I'm really fine with AJ McCarron.
Absolutely fine with him because he has enough weapons where he's not going to he's not going to be in a situation where he's going to have to try to win the game. He's on a really good team. He has plenty of weapons, and I think there's enough that he can go around and put up a good fantasy game.
What exactly will he be trying to do out there?
No, what I'm saying. Obviously, he's going to try to win the game. I'm saying he's not going to.
Hugh Jackson came out and said they're not limiting the offense at all.
Yeah, we saw that when we came in. The what I liked about McCarron is they went full green light right away. You saw what they took shots and AJ.
How would Jerry Jones put it? Balls out.
Balls out.
Balls out.
They threw a 60-yard touchdown to AJ Green. He ended the game on what was a horrific pass, but at least he threw it up there. He wasn't going Alex Smith, I'm going to take the 5-yard throw every single time.
I agree. So defenses this week on the waiver wire, these are great guys to pick up on Wednesday morning because other people might wait another couple days to get them. So you put a waiver claim. I would always place, if I don't need another position, my number one claim is going to be my defense because I need the matchup, and there's nobody better than the Chiefs this week facing off against Jimmy Clausen and the Ravens. You've got the Jets taking on Matt Castle and Dallas. You've got the Patriots facing Marcus Mariota, which is kind of a hit and miss. I'm a little more afraid of the Patriots, to be honest with you.
Really?
Yeah, for sure.
I like the Patriots.
Defense has been middling, and
they just dominated Houston.
okay, but you had a concussed quarterback in that situation too.
They gave
Why
him the
was he
concussion.
concussed?
They were beating him to shreds.
There have been quarterbacks that have had success against the Patriots.
That's
and
fair.
you were going to start Hoyer this week against the Patriots.
Yes.
Were you not?
No, I
Okay.
would absolutely would have if I could have.
So I'm just giving perspective. The Patriots tend to blow people out and then give up yards and points late in the game.
That's
Here's a defense that I would be targeting heavily in almost every league. The Pittsburgh Steelers. And you go, what? They're playing Denver. That's not that great.
Oh, it is.
Week 16.
Denver's not bad either.
Yeah,
I would
that's
play
not
them
that
against
bad.
Denver.
But in week 16, they play Baltimore. And that's a divisional game. It's not going to be high scoring. Baltimore's turning the ball over. We don't even know who their quarterback is. Their defense is great, and Pittsburgh is playing for the playoffs. So to me, they're available in most leagues right now, and your championship week, they're going to be one of my highest rated defenses to play. So you in the playoffs, sometimes you need to look 2 weeks in advance, and not sometimes, every time.
I really hope that I can get by you somehow this week
Yeah?
because the Chiefs play Johnny Manziel in Week 16.
So if they didn't, you wouldn't want to get by me.
Oh.
You just...
Well, no, I mean, it's just kind of like how I felt last week where I wanted to play you
Yeah.
with Thomas Rawls against Cleveland. That didn't work out either. So, all right, I want to get into our...
Hold on.
This
This week, Jags Atlanta. I like that play. I think the Jaguars are a good defensive play. And Texans Colts. I'm going to throw those out there too.
Yeah.
I really like the Texans.
The Texans great because the Colts quarterback, unless Andrew Luck comes back, I love that play.
Absolutely.
And to the person, I don't remember where it popped up, if somebody tweeted at us or I found it on Twitter, who put J.J. Watt's face onto Jamie Lannister with the one hand. That was majestic.
Well done. Well done.
Full stream ahead.
Well, it is time for our streaming quarterbacks. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to give you mine. I like Alex Smith this week, okay? He faces Baltimore, a Baltimore team that's kind of done, a Baltimore team that might give Kansas City some short fields and some opportunities for Alex Smith. Macklin's been playing well, 7-game winning streak. Russell Wilson just scored 5 against Baltimore through the air. And it does seem like the running game has slowed down a little bit for Kansas City. Spencer Ware's banged up. Char West didn't have the biggest game of his career despite the matchup against San Diego. So I really like Alex Smith. Gives you a baseline in rushing yards. I got no problem with him this week if you are kind of in a, basically a non-Brady, non-stud situation.
I have a breaking news kind of hot tip for people about Ryan Fitzpatrick. He is the number 9 quarterback on the year because he is on fire. And this is a guy who's generally owned in less than half of leagues. The number 9 quarterback who is on a tear is widely available. So I'm staying in the flames with Fitz Magic. He's against Dallas. It's just I'm playing him. He's similar to Russell Wilson. If Russell Wilson wasn't doing what he has been doing, which it's 5 touchdowns every week, people would be paying a lot more attention to what Ryan Fitzpatrick has done the last 3 weeks.
I agree with you.
I've
had a lot of people ask whether to start Fitzpatrick or some really bad other options because that perception is there that Fitzpatrick is not an elite option right now.
Yeah, Fitzpatrick, he was my stream of the week as well. And so I say that.
Which I did not realize. Jason and I really like Fitzpatrick this week.
So he was mine, and I would take him over this guy. But since you took Ryan Fitzpatrick, I'm going to say if they're not available, because he is owned in near 50% of leagues, if you want a guy that I believe you can stream for high potential, I'm going to go A.J. McCarron. I actually believe that against the Niners with A.J. Green, we'll have to monitor and see if Eifert's back and Marvin Jones and the dump-offs to Gio Bernard. You've got enough potential there to have. I mean, he came in relief and put up over 280 yards and 2 touchdowns. He had a better fantasy game without a full game against Pittsburgh, a good defense, than Alex Smith did last week, than a lot of guys did last week. So I'd say he's available in all your leagues. I am fine streaming him.
They were playing catch-up. I will throw that out. And not catch-up mustard, as in catching up to the score of the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, I didn't think the first one. But I was probably going to make that joke.
Yes.
So you cut me off on that.
Dad jokes.
Yeah, dad jokes.
So I don't completely disagree.
It's not the
with
safest
McCarron.
pick because
Oh,
you
yeah,
don't
I mean,
know, and because
You're going for glory.
that's where if Fitzpatrick and AJ McCarron is out there, I'm gonna take McCarron. But if it's Jameis Winston or McCarron,
Wait, did you just say if Fitzpatrick and McCarron are out there, you're taking McCarron? That's what I heard.
oh, if that's what I said it backwards.
Okay, you're
If
taking Fitzpatrick.
I'm taking
yeah.
Fitzpatrick because I think he's safer.
I can't play McCarron in the playoffs. I can't do it. I'm not going to do it. If it's a 2-quarterback league, I would do it over a lot of other guys, but I'm not going to do it as my starter. It's just I don't see a situation where I could. You know,
yeah.
I can't see a situation. I mean, there are leagues where guys. I will say this: there are leagues, 12-team, 14-team leagues, where the owners are grabbing 2 or 3 quarterbacks and rostering them, and then at this time you need a guy. So I
got
do.
the cojones.
Yeah, if you got the cojones,
Yeah.
the McCarron cojones.
If you got the Jerry Jones,
That's right.
then
Hang
you
on,
go
Luke.
for
Right.
it.
Hey, you know what? McCarron's got no problems in the world because they can't eat him. So listen, hey, tomorrow we have our Sits of the Week. We also have a special guest, Nando DeFino, one of our favorite people in the industry for many years, will be joining us on the show to chat just about this week, about the playoffs,
Talk
about
some matchups,
some
waivers.
matchups, waivers. Who knows? Who knows what will come up
And after waivers,
from the fantasy network, by the way.
After-
Ketchup, mustard.
Food. Honestly, if we talk food with Nando, I'm sure he'll be fine.
yeah. Also, tomorrow waivers will have processed in our league of record, and we'll do what we did last week and post the picture of Andy and ours lineups.
Oh, yeah,
Let you
and
guys,
you guys
vote
can
on it.
vote.
And see who's gonna win. That's gonna be a tough matchup.
But I'm going to post mine with Rawls still in there and Jonathan Stewart.
I'm gonna post my lineup.
Isn't it funny in fantasy what we do? Yeah, I'm moving on, by the way. Sorry.
You can vote on who I will.
Yeah, who are you playing in your not playing anymore league?
Not
It's
playing.
funny
I'm
how
not
in
playing
fantasy
anybody
I've
in our league.
repeated the fact that Rawls has been knocked out so many times to myself because I'm coping. This is, you go through
You're
grief.
prepping for a loss.
You're prepping for a loss. You're making rationale for your own defeat so you can live with it. That's why I do it.
Hey, I lost Mark Ingram and Greg Olson, so I think maybe Greg Olson's probably going to play.
If you
but
lost
he doesn't,
Greg Olson, you probably should have mentioned it during the giant fantasy football show we just had.
hey, you know what?
Because we didn't think that happened.
No, we're still on this episode, and this is actually a hot
You're
tip.
actually an analyst.
This is a hot tip.
Hot
If you have
topic.
Greg Olson, you should probably grab Ed Dixon.
Totally disagree.
I do
Why
not.
in the world would you do that?
Because
Why not grab Will Tye?
Well-
why not grab Austin Seferian-Jenkins or Zach Miller as your backup in case he doesn't go?
they use that role, and I think they're going to keep the same offense. I think Greg Olson's going to be out there, and so I don't think it's going to happen. But if you have him and you're worried, it just lets you, flip that switch.
Well,
And-
I admit you can't play Austin Seferian-Jenkins because he's Thursday, but I would much rather trust the guy who has an offensive role like Richard Rodgers than I would.
yes, me too.
Dixon,
I
so-
would. Richard Rodgers would be my number one guy.
All right. Wait, he'd be your what?
Be my number one guy.
All right. Hey, we'll be back tomorrow. Thanks for listening. Check out jointhefoot.com. Join our fantasy football community. Talk to you tomorrow.
Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to another edition of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Don't forget to visit us on the web at www.thefantasyfootballers.com and follow us on Twitter @TheFFBallers.